Okay, I've talked to you a little bit to everybody about this. We're going to cover sum and distance formulas. Let's see if you can see this a little better. Okay, let me zoom in. All right. Let's start with cosine. All right, so here's two formulas here. Cosine of angle A plus angle B, okay, equals this formula. We'll take cosine of A times cosine of B minus sine of A times sine of B. So this could be pi fourths and pi sixths. So cosine of pi fourths times cosine of pi sixths minus sine of pi fourths times sine of pi sixths will give us what that cosine of, if you added those angles together, like 30 plus 40 or something like that. Pi fourths and pi sixths would be 45 and 30, that'd be 75, okay? That would give it, I'll get to an example like that later. So get that formula down, and here's the difference. This is minus cosine of, in the textbooks they use alpha and beta, I'm just using A and B. Cosine of A minus B can be manually derived by doing cosine of A times cosine of B, and that's angle A and angle B, plus the sine of angle A times the sine of angle B. So what this does for us is when you get some angle, like 105 degrees, okay, you don't have a calculator, or you just want the exact, I'm asking for the exact answer, which means no calculator. Don't approximate and plug in the calculator for the square root of something. Okay? So cosine of 105, I'm going to break that up into cosine of 60 and 45. Those are both cosines that I know the answer to. Okay? So I can go ahead and apply my formula of A plus B. So I'm going to go ahead and cosine of A would be cosine of 60 is 1/2 times cosine of 45, which is going to be root 2 over 2. And then we're minus the sine of 60, which is root 3 over 2, times the sine of 45, which is root 2 over 2. Okay? So what I have is, if you know your multiplication, I've got 1 time, the numerator times numerator is root 2, denominator, 4, root 3 times root 2 is root 6, and denominator is 2 times 2 is 4. Okay? So it's root 2 minus root 6 over 4. I could also make it like 1/4 times root 2 minus root 6. That's the cosine value of 105 degrees. All right? So, here's some sine formulas. All right, we can do the same thing for sine. There's a different derivation. I'm not going to show you how we get the formulas, although in college you would be expected to know that. Sine of A plus B is sine of A cosine B plus cosine A sine of B. So here's, and the difference formula, this is the sum, here's the difference of sine of A minus B. It'll be sine of A cosine B, but here's the minus cosine A sine B. Alright, so we should have that down in your notes. The way I remember this is this. Cosine goes strictly cosine, cosine, sine, sine. And it's always, for any of them, it's always AB, AB. The cosine, what's tricky, is just when it's A plus, you got a minus. When it's A minus B, you got a plus. But it's always cosine, cosine, sine, sine. And then when you get to the sine, the one thing that's different is if it's plus, minus, minus, but then you wrote the sine cosines rotates. But again, it's always AB, AB. Sine, cosines, and then it goes sine, cosine, cosine, sine, cosine, cosine, sine. I hope you guys can remember those. They take a little practice to get used to. All right, let's do another example that you might see tomorrow on a quiz. Would be, let's say, I want sine of pi 12th. Well, I don't know the sine of pi 12th, but I do know that 4 pi over 12 is actually pi thirds, and 4 pi over 12 minus 3 pi over 12, that's pi fourths. That's like I said, that would be pi 12ths, right? 4 minus 3 is 1 pi over 12. I can rewrite that, like I said, that's pi thirds minus pi fourths. And we know, let's see, we're doing the difference. So sine of pi thirds is root 3 over 2. Okay, times pi fourths cosine of pi fourths, and we're doing the minus one here, but sine of so sine of pi thirds is root 3 over 2. And cosine of pi fourths is root 2 over 2. Okay. I'd like to write right underneath this, okay? So I've got, yes, root 3 over 2, root 2 over 2, minus, okay, cosine of A, which is pi thirds, that's 1/2, okay? Sine of B, which is pi fourth, which is root 2 over 2, okay? So again, I'm going to have 4 in the denominator, 2 times 2 and 2 times 2, so 4 is my denominator. All right. Here I've got root 3 times root 2. That's root 6. Here I've got 1 times root 2. Root 2. Okay. Root 6 minus root 2 over 4. Okay. That'll be cosine of... I'm sorry. That would end up being... What am I doing? Sine here. I'm sorry. That would be sine of pi 12ths. This answer here, or we can express it as 1/4 times root 6 minus root 2. Okay? That's that would be, we're doing sine of pi 12ths. Okay? Alright? So that'll get us started on doing these sum and difference formulas for cosine. These are your a plus and a minus, and we use these to break up angles. Here's the sine. Okay? These two right here. So a plus b, a minus b, get those down. All right, we'll do some problems tomorrow. We need to really start pressing forward. I'm not, we're going on a fast pace now, okay? The 7.5 minutes, you can see we really need to start stepping it up. A lot of people didn't do that well on the test, and it was right off our worksheets, okay? All right, have a good night.